Hey everybody, this is attorney Veronica McClendon, the owner, CEO, and principal attorney of McClendon Law and Consulting located in Macon, Georgia. I'm here to talk to y'all today about whether you should include your family's heirs property in your will or trust. So a lot of people think if they own heirs property, there's no point in them really including it in their estate planning because it's a mess anyway, and they don't really see that the property is going to really benefit themselves or their children, and so they figure, why include it in my will or my trust? And I always encourage them, please make sure that you tell me about your family's heirs property and make sure that you list it in your estate planning documents. And I'm here today to talk to y'all about 3 reasons why you want to include your family's heirs property in your will, your trust, your estate plan. The first reason is because it is an asset. When I work with my clients to do estate planning, I ask them to list all of their assets. And for some reason, heirs property does not always come on the radar. And I tell them all of your assets, anything that you own that has your name on it, attached to it, I want to see it listed. And I will help you decide if it's something that we should include or leave out. But I want you to include everything. And heirs property is an asset. You may not own 100% of it. You may own a very small fraction of it, but whatever you do own, it is yours. And if that property were to be sold, or if there was anything done to where income was generated from the property, you would be entitled to receive your fair share. Another thing a lot of people may not think about is that heirs property is able to be used by everybody who has a part ownership interest in it. So let's say that your family owns some land that has trees on it. If you want to, you can go and hunt. Now, I'm not necessarily recommending that if you've never gone to hunt on your family's property, or you hadn't talked to your family who live close to the land about your desire to go hunt, I don't advise you go taking guns to this property and start shooting at stuff. That may not be the best bet, because when guns are involved, we want to be extra careful. There's liability issues, and then of course, like I said, guns and people just showing up on people's land, whether you family or not. They may not have the time to ask the questions at that time. So make sure that you plan ahead for things like that. But what I'm saying is that if you own a partial interest in heirs property, you can use that property. And there are so many different things that you can do with land, even if you don't own all of it. And so you want to make sure that you continually keep in your mind that that heirs property is an asset. So that's the number one reason why you want to include your family's heirs property in your will or your trust, because it is an asset and you want to include all of your assets in your estate planning. Reason number 2 is that if you don't include your family's heirs property in your will or in your trust, the people who are administering your estate may not know that you own an interest in heirs property. And this has happened more times than I would like to count, where I have had individuals who had a will and they'll say, my house goes to this person and my rental property goes to this person, but they don't mention the family heirs property. And so with each generation, it can kind of get lost. Like, we don't have anything to track to show that this family property is still in the family. And so it's important, even just for documentation purposes, that you include your family's heirs property on your estate plan, so that when those who are administering your estate are handling all of your affairs and transferring your ownership and various assets, they can address the heirs property as well. So keeping it in your will or your trust is a way to help keep track of things. It's a record keeping mechanism, so that we know that this family property has changed from one generation to the next, because it keeps showing up on everybody's wills and in their trust. And then reason number 3 kind of ties back to number 2 as well. It's easier for families to clear title to heirs property if the people who came before had a will or a trust that addressed the heirs property, because then we know what happens to your interest. Let's say that you have 5 kids and you own a 10% interest in heirs property. You might want all 5 of your kids to become partial owners of that 10%. Or you might say, instead of me giving this 10% to all 5 of my children, I'm going to give it to one. or I'm going to give it to 2 or 3. For whatever reasons you may have, that's between you and your children and your own personal decision making. But you might decide that I'm not going to leave it to all 5 of them. I'm going to leave it to a particular person or a few people. Or you might say, I know that my children don't want anything to do with the property, so I'm going to leave my 10% interest to my cousin, who I know has been working the land and who cares about the land and who is going to be a good steward of it moving into the future. So if you have that addressed in your estate planning, it makes things easier for those who are working to clear the title later on, because they know who had an interest in this property and they know who they wanted their interest to be directed toward. So those are 3 reasons that you should include your family's heirs property in your will or trust. Don't leave it out of your estate plan. Heirs property is an asset, and we don't want to lose track of it because you forgot to mention it in your will or your trust. And third, including it in your estate plan makes things easier for those who are looking to clear the title in the future. So I hope these have been helpful. Make sure you include this in your estate plan. This has been Attorney Veronica McClendon, the owner, the CEO, and the principal attorney of McClendon Law Consulting. Have a great day.